Wow. It seems exceptionally dark in here. Let's see if I can turn towards the light and get a little bit better there. Maybe that's going to work. Maybe not. Maybe you guys are just going to have to deal with darkness here. That would be a shame. It'll work if I turn around. I guess that's a little bit better. Yeah, it's a little bit better anyway. How you guys doing? Ready for a little Q&A? Sorry, that's the sound of me moving stuff around, not just randomly grunting for no reason. So, let's see if we can get some questions about Earth's disaster cycle, sunspot maximum, which I think is quite clearly here. Let's just fire away. And Mr. Benson, if you're watching, I didn't just jump out of the shower, got it on today. I have it on every day, but you know what I mean. Oh, this is awesome. Nice to see so many of you guys here already. All right. Garrett Park, are the poles about to flip in the 12,000-year cycle? Welcome, new viewer. Yes, most people know about the 12,000-year cycle because of this channel. It is the primary focus of what we do on the non-daily scale. The daily scale is keeping up with the news, keeping up with what the sun is doing. Other than that, though, yes, absolutely. We are in the 12,000-year cycle. Last major event was 12,000 years ago. Magnetic poles are shifting. Magnetic field overall is weakening at the planet. And it's not just our planet. The entire solar system is changing. It's a solar system shift. It will end with the solar micronova and the magnetic reversal of this planet. Pretty much seeing it all over. So I guess I see we have people being funny already. Always good to be humorous. By the way, if we hear a lot of noise, all 3 children of mine are downstairs. So yeah, that might be a thing. Ben, when should we expect a grand solar minimum in your estimation? Might not get one. Maybe it's coming next sunspot cycle. What I can tell you, Republic Sentinel, is that we have to wait for the solar polar field magnetism at the peak of sunspot maximum and in the beginning of the descending phase of the cycle. That is the magnetism that tells you what kind of juice is left in the tank for the next cycle. And so that's why in 2015, 2016, 2017, we were able to start saying, hey, look, I know we've been talking about the possibility of grand solar minimum for this solar cycle 25, but after those years and we saw how much magnetism it had, how much juice it still had in the tank, that was when we started to say, no, this sunspot cycle probably would not be a grand solar minimum. Quite obviously, we are not in grand solar minimum right now. Yeah. But so that would probably be around 2025, 2026, 2027, where we'd really start to get the idea there. By the way, I am aware that there's going to be some kind of video that's coming out later tonight on the Adam and Eve story by Chan Thomas. I expect to see, and that I think will happen after this video is done. I expect to see observers there posting links, sharing truth, all kinds of things like that. So, Peter King, will the whole of the UK be flooded? I don't know, but the UK is not exactly the best choice of places to be, as I've said several times on these live streams. But yeah, observers, if you see that Adam and Eve story, make sure you guys are in the comment section doing what you should do. Denise asks, good evening, Ben. Thank you so, doesn't really ask, just says, good evening, Ben. Thank you so much for what you do. You are very welcome. It's not always thankful, or sometimes it's quite thankless, but I do enjoy doing it. No question about that. The sun is never boring, even when it is relatively boring. It's never boring. It's always beautiful. Thank you, Bryce Arnott, by the way. Don't forget to like the video. It's very helpful. Don't know if you guys could hear that. That was my baby Adam down there. He doesn't have like a low volume. He has silent independent mode, and then he has I'm going to wake up the dead scream mode. So we'll see which one of those we get this time. Ralph, always good to see you here. Can't let my favorite space weather man can't empty-handed. Is it possible the poles will move slow flip? You know, I'm not sitting here in the presence of a crystal ball. The movement of the magnetic poles has been accelerating every couple of years. The South Pole is the most recent one to speed up. Um, in terms of the geophysical poles, in theory, we could see happen relatively slowly, but what does relatively slowly actually mean? Um, my best guess in terms of past events and the extent of the tsunamis that we saw was that it happens in about a day. So there's that. Could it be more slowly with just as much contribution by the rise and fall of land masses in the ocean? Hard to say. The best we can do is go on the past evidence, see what's cyclical, things like that. But always a good question, Ralph. Republic, back again. Bang to start the show. When will we get another report on the position of the poles and the strength of the magnetic field? The position of the poles is updated pretty regularly. We have that link at magneticreversal.org. But in terms of the strength of the magnetic field, they used to give us that every 5 years, and then they just stopped right around 2010. We got it every 5 years with the motion of the poles before that. But after the ESA's swarm mission updated the 10% lost number from NASA up to 15% in 2010, that was the last we've seen. And very regrettably, I've seen a lot of the peer-reviewed literature actually start to ignore that and go back to the 10% or even call it 9% number. When you see that in a paper, you can be sure that they are just completely off the rails with reality, ignoring the published stuff. By the way, that announcement from the ESA is also at magneticreversal.org. No, I do not update that site regularly. Maybe I should. Kind of got some other things going on right now, but it's supposed to be a basic primer on what this whole thing is in terms of the geomagnetism. So there's that. Stormy, thank you. I'm presuming that link is for tonight's Adam and Eve story video. Again, expect to see you observers there in the comment section. Hi, PJ. How's it going? We have to come up with a name for that little GIF / emoji thing. I don't know what to call it. Like it's almost like a pear, like a teal pear. But we got to come up with a name for this thing because I really like that. I don't know why. It makes me happy every time I see it. Tommy Larson, probably when the poles stop moving is when the oceans will stop rising. Anomalous Howard, frozen mammoths not due to the flip. No, due to the plasma cooling. Remember, they did the math on this, and even if you threw a mammoth into outer space, its stomach wouldn't cool fast enough to stop the chemical digestion. So you need a way to have a penetrating cooling instantly. And the best way to do that is plasma cooling. The only other way I can think of is if it's completely inundated with near frozen water and ice, and it swallows a bunch of it, and that goes down and starts to begin that process that way. But it's really hard to see any normal way to freeze a mammoth other than those things that would happen in this major Earth cataclysm. Primordial Platypus, welcome back. Remember that name? That's not a name you forget, by the way. Why aren't more scientists sounding the alarm? Do they not believe, or are they hiding it? Some are hiding it. Some are afraid to sound the alarm. They see what happens to scientists who sound the alarm. And, a lot of them really say, the one professors, some of the NASA scientists who email me say they can't even talk to people working down the hall in their department about some of this stuff. They certainly don't necessarily feel comfortable publishing papers or sounding an alarm on any major scale. Mel Mack and Laura, both of you posting the little teal pear. I love that thing. Did we come up with a name with it yet? James Colston, by the way, I hate to do this to you, but watch the playlist. I address Yellowstone several times in the playlist. Short answer is no, it is not a threat. But if you'd like to know why, go ahead and watch the playlist. I'm not going to go over that one again right now. Scott, will all the volcanoes going off during the big event shroud the earth, making crops fail and everything that happens after as a result? How long will it take for the atmosphere to clear? The volcanoes are going to be a pretty significant aspect of it, but also, the dust from the solar micronova is going to get deposited in the upper atmosphere. I do expect this to be anywhere from several weeks to a year of something like that volcanic / nuclear winter, except it'll be more like a volcanic micronova winter. We do know it probably doesn't take longer than that. The stories from India and other places say the world does start to kind of come back, and that also makes sense that it would come back relatively quickly because this never kills the whole world. It never causes more than a handful of species to go extinct, even though there are significant reductions in the population of species pretty much across the board. But yeah, Earth will come back. Does it not seem feasible that evaporation of Earth's water to massive accumulation in the atmosphere is a very likely contributor to the carnage? Certainly. I certainly think that that's one of the reasons why we're going to see so much rain. Massive flooding, massive rains are going to be a part of this. That is also going to help take the volcanic particles out of the atmosphere, not to mention any of the radioactive particles that get released from nuclear plants that melt down during this thing. But yeah, absolutely on the evaporation. And that's also going to reflect sunlight back into space and contribute to the cooling. If the field change is no longer being publicized, could it be that it is changing much faster than any expected, perhaps the next 8 to 10 years? Thank you for all you do. Again, it's possible, but if it's 15, 20 years, that's still absolutely devastating and still absolutely a thing that they would hide from the world. I mean, whether or not it's 8 years or 25 years, that's like immediate global panic. Nobody's going to work the next day. Chaos and anarchy ensue like that, and the world is over. So, yeah, it's absolutely possible. Hard to tell. And some of the littler space weather we've got recently does indicate that the magnetic field is still not exactly doing well. My son is going nuts down there. I don't know if you guys can hear this or not, but yeah, it doesn't look like it hasn't impacted Earth to the point where I'd say, oh, we're on the verge right now. You've mentioned that when the tsunami hits inland, it will be like a fast rising high tide. I'm presume you left a number out there. It says I'm 0 miles from the East Coast. Will there be a huge wave that far inland? If you are on the east side of the Appalachians, you are not in the right place. The wave is it's going to break through the Appalachians. Yes, if you stand on the tops of those mountains, you could probably look down at it breaking through the valleys, but also hard exactly to get all your preps up to the top of the mountain, and you're not going to have much afterwards. You could float away, but then you're floating away to an area where you're not sure where you're going to land. Kind of a scary situation. The Atlantic attacks this time the most, whereas last time the Pacific attacked the most. Joan, big ups to you. Thank you for that. Nice hippo emoji / GIF there. Got to come up with a name for these things. Ben, what's my personal plan to survive the oceans possibly washing over the Rockies? That's not going to happen this time, House. The Earth is tilting back the other way. And so the Pacific is not coming over the Rockies this time. By the way, in that video tonight where somebody's going to go over the Adam and Eve story with Chan Thomas, if you'd like to show how much you know, why don't you comment about the main problem, the main inaccuracy that Chan Thomas has? Chan Thomas identifies the new pole positions as the Bay of Bengal and somewhere in South America. But in order to get them there, and how you tilt the world, the wave can't be what he says it's going to be. Pikes Peak is not the only place to survive it in the United States. As he said, he uses the wave from last time But the problem is that wave came from getting the poles right now to where they are right now. When we're talking about the new poles and putting them to where they're going to be, it is a very different story, and the wave goes a different direction. You guys can really show your knowledge there. Again, that would be on the Adam and Eve story by Chan Thomas video that somebody, the Why Facts or whatever, is going to put out tonight. And again, if you can find that video, I do expect observers to be there sharing truth, posting some links to, I don't know, relevant material or other YouTube channels, things like that. But there will be a sloshing effect. Yeah, and I've gone over that in the videos. I show where the sloshes are going to go versus the initial inertial waves. None of those are coming over the Rockies. Go back and watch those videos. Can I speak to the keeping of livestock and related from the solar kill shot through the micronova? Tips, tricks, thoughts. From the solar kill shot through the to the micronova, the exact same way they did it before there was electricity. The exact same way they did it before there was electricity, which they did fairly effectively. Protecting them from the micronova is a thing. Might want to have some kind of a shelter for them. I don't know how much you want to bring a bunch of cows, chickens, and goats into a tiny little hobbit hole or a root cellar with you. Might not go so well, but get creative. There's lots of ways that these creatures survived, and all the animals that we would have as agricultural animals today, they all existed 12,000 years ago, and they're still here. So I think animals are going to see this coming better than we can and have some coping mechanisms that we don't fully understand. Yes, we are the most intelligent species on this planet by far, but there are senses and innate intelligences to animals that we don't fully understand. You're welcome, Pain. Man, these are coming in quick now. Rapid fire. Hi, Laura. Thank you again. Innovative Media. Hey, Ben, would I be able to survive the wave in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia? Oof. If I was in a 60-person lifeboat, I'm about 5 to 6 kilometers inland. That could survive it. You might be able to float away. What you always want to remember if you're in a float away zone is it's not just water. There's trees, there's rocks, there's muck. Remember, the wave in the Alps pushed huge million-ton blocks of rock 2 kilometers up the hill. So, yes, in theory, you could, if you had a boat that was substantial size. There's always that unseen factor of, are you going to get hit by a massive tree? Are you going to get hit by something else? So there's that. Any chance you're on Suspect Sky's show soon? Unfortunately, he does it on Saturday mornings, which is like key Ben prime time, being dad. I don't know, maybe at some point in the future, but we'll see. Appreciate the question, though, Republic. Where in the bombardment timeline will the LLSVP start to slip? In other words, will there be a time to get out from under cover of the pummeling of cosmic rays and man the boats? So the LLSVP is not exactly what slips. Those can help with the mantle heaving. I think you mean the low velocity zone starts to slip. That happens when we get hit with the micronova shell and basically get the super geomagnetic storm. So basically, when the sun turns a different color, likely red, that's when you need to seek shelter. When you feel the great global earthquake, that's when you can come back out. Most of the radiation, the plasma stuff has hit. If you were going to take the arc discharge from the sky, you would have taken it already. And that's when you can start to say, okay, now we got to prepare for the major earthquakes, the land rising, the land falling, the mantle heaving, and the continental scale tsunamis. Panolio, thank you. Oh, scrolling back up. Scrolling. Do you have a link for the Adam and Eve video? Stormy does in the comment section. Stormy, if you could just post that every couple of minutes. I'm sorry. You do so much, and I really appreciate you. But if you could just post that every couple of minutes for people who want it. Stormy is one of our moderators. We have a couple of moderators, actually, and I thank all of them. Oh, and Rose, it wasn't there yet because it doesn't start until 7 p.m. Mountain Time or 8 p.m. Central, which is the time zone they are on, I believe. Do I think the lithosphere shift could finally explain abducted ophiolites? I don't exactly know what that means. It's an interesting question, though. Shelly, if you want to send me that in an email, I promise I will look it up. I can't say here during a live stream I'm going to dive deep into a research project, but that at least sounds interesting, and I will take a look at it for you. Thanks, a pirate. Where are we here? I love scrolling. Enhance. Following for around 9 years, and this always seems slightly left out of most of the videos, seems naturally USA focused. Can you speak on the UK Ireland's chance? I speak on that quite a bit. It's just that there's not much to say other than that is not a great place to be. Just not a good place to be. Yes, you might find somewhere that you can get lucky, but, and I'm sorry for all my viewers over there in the UK, Ireland, Scotland, it's just a scary place. Try to get to as high a ground as possible. It's best I can say. Not to mention that based on the pattern of where the flash hits, the flash should be hitting, you know, Europe and Africa's longitudes. So there's that. Can I explain how Voyager flying at that speed can leave the solar system that travels at 7? Well, because it's all relative. It's all relative. Voyager started at that 720,000 kilometers per hour. It's going 61,500 kilometers per hour relative to the solar system at which it started. It's kind of like if I stick my head out of a car, my head out the window of a car as we're going 100 miles an hour, and I throw a rock. Maybe it goes 140, 150 miles an hour. I can't throw a rock 140, 150 miles per hour. I can't throw a rock fast enough to outrun a 100-mile-per-hour vehicle if I'm standing on the side of the road. But if I'm already traveling that quickly, it's a relative speed. Not a bad question, though. For an out-of-shape 60 to 70-year-old, why are you out of shape? What's stopping you? Get at it. Get on it. Minor medical issues. Get on it. You can do it. When this hits, should we just say screw it and plan to die rather than trying to prep? Heck no. You chose this time to be here. If you don't want to believe this, this is fine. This is something I believe and a lot of other people believe. I don't believe that we are just this fleshy body. I believe that something like the soul is real. There was a pre-life and there's an afterlife. And I believe we chose to come here right now to be part of the cosmic Super Bowl. Don't abandon it. Do your best. Am I familiar with the studies of Masaru Emoto? No. He scientifically proved that human emotion, thoughts, and words can have a direct effect on the molecular structure of water. Okay, yeah, actually, I did hear about him. I think that's related to the people who either prayed and gave happy thoughts over a glass of water as it was freezing, and then they did the same thing, but they were like angry and like shouting at the water, and it froze in different patterns that were repeatable. Definitely a real thing. Definitely a real thing. There's a lot of truth to stuff like that. So if you were asking whether or not you should read more about it, I would say Kingsman. There's definitely some truth to that. You get 2 thumbs up on that one from me. Just got Weatherman's Guide to the Sun, began healing trauma and listening to Sadhguru. Will lead protect against X-rays and radiation or just melt like copper? So X-rays mostly aren't going to make it to the ground. Extreme ultraviolet will. A simple roof will protect you from that. If you're talking about cosmic rays, it would be very challenging for anybody to completely avoid the extra cosmic ray dose. Basically, like being, like pretend it's 50 years ago and you're on an airplane up at that high level of the atmosphere for like a week straight. It's probably not going to kill a lot of people. But lead, I don't recommend lead. That has a very good chance of melting, arcing, things like that. Can't help but determine that all the satellites do have a negative effect on our magnetosphere. Probably not as much as our use of electricity. We generate electricity by spinning magnets inside of the atmosphere and basically taking electrons, basically taking electricity out of Earth's electrical system, which directly feeds into the magnetic field. Of course, that can't explain what happened 12,000 years ago, 12,000 years before that, 12,000 years before that. No, it's probably not helping. Grand solar minimums, crazy Canuck. Will the induction affect rebar and concrete shelters? Very, very good chance that it will. I'm advising people, if they have, the ability to do whatever, to try to find to use as little metal as possible in whatever you plan to hide in during the micronova. Kind of a simple answer, but is what it is. Hello, Rob Painless. Always good to see you. Howdy, Ben. Curious, how many feet deep do you think the water is likely to be over the central USA? 2,000 feet? More? Will help to know where is safe-ish. Probably nowhere in the center of the United States is safe-ish. And it's hard to say because don't forget, between New Madrid shaking everything all about and the fact that when the water leaves the Gulf of Mexico and goes up into the center of the United States, it will sink as well. And so all I know is that water is going there. I think it's going to make it to Canada. I think it's going to pour into the Great Lakes. Exactly how much, I'm not sure. But don't forget, it's going to have a pretty powerful run-up effect. If you are at 1,000 feet, but you're on the flat plane and it's basically just flat, flat, flat all the way up to you, doesn't matter. That's inertia. It's going to take it right over you. If you're at 1,000 feet, but you're on a hill in the middle of the plains and literally everywhere around you's down at 500 feet, maybe you got a chance then. But it's all relative. And don't forget, the wave run up is always much higher than the wave itself. Good question, though. I do not scroll too far. I don't want to miss these questions. You know what happened. Scroll too far. Way too far. Man, you got firing them at me here. All right, I'm going to have to be a little faster with this. Greetings from rural Southwest Wyoming. Thanks, Mark. Greetings to you as well. Happy New Year. Thank you, Tony R. Appreciate it. Oh, Tony Rango. There you go. I should have known from the image. Stoked on the live chats. Why are the James Webb Space Telescope images of local planets and their moons blurry, but interstellar images are crystal clear? Is it an optics imaging issue or something else? I have no idea. Like I said before, I was excited about the possibility for James Webb. I also wasn't holding out hope with all my heart that they were going to give us everything they could from that satellite. So, it is what it is. They may just be hiding stuff. Or there might be optics and imaging issues. I don't know. None of the folks that are secretly observers in those high positions are actually working on James Webb at this point, so I don't know. Thanks, Bobby Tectal Bliss. Appreciate you. Daniel S., if I missed this in a video, my apologies. It's possible. Should we see an increase in shooting stars as the dust increases in the solar system? If yes, could we use this as a precursor? I don't know if we would or not. That's really tough to say. I know a lot of the dust that's coming in is nano size. And we shouldn't really expect too much of an accumulation to where it obscures the apparent color of the sun until the galactic magnetic reversal really disrupts the electrical processes on the surface of the star and really drops down the solar wind and photoionization, luminescence, things like that. And so the answer is maybe we might see something like that, more shooting stars. We also might not. I wish I could give you a more definitive answer. It's a good question, though. Is it possible that instead of the late 30s or 40s, the timeline is late 20s to early 30s? If so, what kind of event should we see soon? I mean, like I said, anything's possible. I would think that if it was going to be late 20s, the magnetic field should really be going like this. And when we get those Earth-directed CMEs, we should be having, lots of airline problems, lots of transformers blowing. Almost every major, large scale electrically based system having issues. Best way to tell for that will be when the sun inevitably does send some coronal mass ejections our way. So it's kind of like we don't really want to see it, but I also kind of want to see it because I want to know how Earth's magnetic field is doing. It's a real catch-22, two sides of that sword. As the galactic current sheet propagates, will we see other stars produce micronovas before our sun? We actually have already seen all of the stars that are in line right before us. They have all gone boom. And if we look towards the center of the galaxy, not only have they gone boom, 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 but one to the north of us has gone boom as well. Now, none of those are G-type stars, and so we would not expect the exact same kind of outburst, just like when you look at planetary nebula, what they call a nova explosion. No two look the same. Same thing like this, but we have seen every star that should be ahead of the line from the sun. They've all gone boom. The sun is next, and that is in the playlist and very well covered, by the way. Excellent question, though. Love going back over that. Ron Hunter, thank you very much. Appreciate you. How many did I miss here? If so, which stars? All right, so the stars that have gone, the one directly up there is ADO. We've seen Proxima, Barnard Star, and one at this exact moment, I'm not remembering the number, but the next closest one is one of the Gliese stars. All of those have gone boom and in the correct order right at the sun already. Good questions there, TAFX. Thank you, John Cohen. And that is a cute little emoji. Australia endured 5 months of fires in 2019, led to see the correlation of atmosphere and magnetic poles, close proximity, and intensified floods, fires. Maybe you said would love to see the correlation. Anyway, I do think that there is some charged particle bombardment issues. They're having the South Magnetic Pole so close. They were able to do some of these studies in Serbia that showed when there was high solar proton bombardment, they had more fires, forest fires. I know it's not the same as the bush fires, but if you see where I'm getting at there. So if that's what you were going for, Placid Sidekick, yes. My answer is just a simple yes, that could be related. Adam and Hobbs, could it be possible those who survive in the most dangerous areas of the planet and will not have to, that some who could survive will not have to deal with so many people after so like if you are in a very dangerous area and you manage to survive, you won't have to deal with as many people in the aftermath. Yeah, if you want to phrase it like that, sure. You're taking down your chances of surviving in the first place. I'd rather be in a safer area with a well-intentioned community, the kind of community that outnumbers all the other people in a nearby area. And then I would start to get to know the people in the nearby area and make sure you make friends with them. I may or may not have started. Okay. Scrolling, enhance. Trying to buy land in Colorado with a water source is tough. No kidding. Would love information on the ranch west side of the Rockies. Safe too. Technically, that could be safe. Definitely not as safe. Send me an email. Lots of people are sending emails. There's links to Observer Ranch stuff down below the video in the description box. Thank you, Nancy Marshall. Appreciate you. Alpha to Omega, good to see you back again. That's also a name that's very challenging to forget. Would putting metal tools in sand stop arcing? That's actually a maybe. The silicon oxygen mixed in glass stops arcing. I can't promise you it'd be the same with sand. I would say you're better off putting them in a plastic bin, but not the worst idea. Believe me, I've seen much worse ideas than that. I think the Great Dividing Range in the East Coast Australia will be enough to protect against splashback and sea level rise when the worst hits. This is another one I can't say for sure yes or no, but I have reason to believe the answer is no. It seems like over the last several cycles that land has been sinking. Some of the Aboriginals have stories of land that sank into the sea. if you're familiar with any of those stories, whether it's Atlantis, Mu, Lemuria, I think that it's very possible that one of the reasons why there has been so much survival on that continent through these past disasters is because before it was much broader and the waves didn't have the impact that they're going to have now. I think it's a much smaller place than it was in the past. Again, can't guarantee either way. If you can't get out of the region, yeah, your highest spot close by is your best bet. No question. Sandy, God bless you and thank you, Davidson family. Thank you too. Y'all are so generous with your brilliance. I hope to see you soon. Wish I could send more. You're awesome. You're great. We love you too. Thank you. And yes, we hope to see you soon as well. I missed a lot of things here. Holy cow. All right, I'm going to have to go rapid fire on these. Any safe zones in the Berkshires, Adirondack, or Green Mountains in the Northeast? In theory, it's possible, but it's not likely. And the aftermath is going to be a lot more challenging. If you can't get out, do the best you can where you are. I would prepare to float. I would prepare to potentially be dealing with those winters for several years. If the sun takes out power, prepare for being in the most highly populated area of the country, because those people aren't just going to stay in cities. Yeah, some of them are going to stay there and get eaten or be killed there, but yet they're going to be flooding the high altitude or high elevation areas. So consider that. Is the ranch getting acquainted with horses and wagons? Taylor Sheridan, 1883 style. I don't want to go over a lot of what the ranch is doing, but let's just say we are surrounded by horse and cattle farms. We are not ruling out trying to have some kind of steam or wind power afterwards. We are also fully preparing to live a pre-industrial society. We do not own any wagons as of this time. Hello, Ben and other Aussies. Hello, Billy Joe. Ben, I've made it almost all the way through the disaster playlist. Good for you. Almost thank you for all your hard work keeping us all informed. Somebody's got to do it. And I was cursed with speed reading and mild hyperthymesia, so I guess that'll be me. Can't say I hate doing it either. Interested in my take on metal buildings like an industrial building? Not good. Would this attract the arcs of electricity that might happen? Yes. And the electrical wires that are everywhere? Yes. The Wi-Fi towers, those are not going to survive this event. You have the patience of Job. Thank you for all you do, Ben. Laura, you have no idea. Do any of you guys think that like my life is just like awesome and like everything in my life is fantastic and like I just come on here? The squeeze is on. Everyone who's trying to do good things in the world right now is getting squeezed. I'm not going to sit here and whine and complain, but thank you, Sandy. Appreciate you. Thank you. The storm is here. That's 2 thank yous I need to give you actually for today. Next End of the World mentions surge deposits becoming coal. Looked at UK coal maps for Gothenburg and Lake Mungo to see where the waves reach each time. Not a terrible plan. Also, don't forget that land doesn't look like it did 12,000 years ago, 24,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago. Land is going to rise, land is going to fall, and there's really just no way to predict all the different places where that can happen. Although, Mike, it's a very good exercise, and what you're saying there shows me that you're thinking in the right ways. I hope you can take that compliment and the uncertainty in my answer and be cool with it. But that's the best I could probably say about that at this moment. Man, I got to go even faster. Okay. How tall do I think the front edge of the wave will be inland? Can a boat actually launch or will it just get crushed? Depends where you are. There's going to be some geology that causes wave buildup. There's going to be places where it starts at your toes and then it slowly goes up. It all depends on the local geology, how far inland you are. This is like the question of, Ben, how high of elevation do I need to be? And I'm like, where are you in the world? How close are you to the water? You know, there's a million things that go into answering a question like that? It's a very good question, though, and I understand you just want to know stuff like that, but it really is important what's in front of you, like what's between you and the water for that question. Some boats will get crushed, some will launch. What about all the nuclear power plants? I've gone over that several times in the playlist. Essentially, a lot of them are going to be buried in water, buried in mud. Those enormous rains that I discussed at the beginning of the show, they're going to very, very efficiently take that stuff out of the atmosphere. Not to mention that unless you are right next to it, it's not going to be as bad as you think. If you have not seen Galen Windsor, the nuclear scare scam, that is one of the most important videos anybody who's afraid of the nuclear power plants can watch. Galen Windsor, the nuclear scare scam. NM, thank you very much. Ashley says, is it possible to hunker down in a cave somewhere in Minnesota, or should I move to a different area? It depends how high up the cave is. As I've said before, the two biggest issues in Minnesota are, one, make sure you're not near one of the big cities, and two, let's say the sun takes out power 5, 10, 15 years. If it takes out power next week with a major solar flare here in this sunspot maximum, maybe 20, 25 years before the flip, can you survive in Minnesota's winters with no power? That's a much bigger question about the cave or the elevation there. Sam H. Thompson Fenwick, thank you. Scrolling. Starlight, hello. You have axis tilt points around Hawaii and Congo, maybe Egypt. I looked at the video with new equator very slowly, and it doesn't go through these axis tilt points. Not exactly Hawaii and not exactly Congo, but yeah, it goes through the center of the Pacific and it goes through Africa. I don't know how exactly on point you want to be with that, but yes, it absolutely does go through those areas. Let me pull it up right now. And I know I'm missing these right now. And as I'm sitting here looking at this, it just looks like I'm staring off at something. I'm pulling up that video just to make reference right now. Yep, there it is going through the center of the Pacific, just astride of Hawaii. And the equator here is located more in Western Africa. If it's off by 1,000 miles, it doesn't change really any of the stuff that we're talking about. That was the best we could do with the program we used to make that video. It is what it is, but those are going to be the basic axis points. And don't forget, if the axis points are here, maybe it's here, there's a little bit of this. It's really hard to tell. These are the best guesses we can possibly make based on the physics of Earth today and the evidence from the past. Earth Scum says, what is the range of flares that could take out only one side of Earth's electrical? I know this will change as the magnetic shield declines over time. It's a really good question. At the end of solar cycle 24, let's say it's 2015, 2016, I probably could have told you the answers to these questions like that with a very, very specific and certain element to it. We haven't been tested enough this sunspot cycle for us to really know. They haven't given us a new percentage down of the magnetic field. I know this. Long duration X-class solar flares aimed at Earth will have me paying very close attention, or multiple smaller ones, maybe throw in a coronal hole there too, will have me paying very close attention. Something like X10 or higher, long duration, again, yeah, I'm going to be a little worried. X20 and higher, I'm going to be telling you guys, just for the heck of it, go. Keep your phone on in case you have to go back home in 2 days with your tail between your legs. And don't hate me for telling you that this is a very good possibility, but X20 and higher, long duration aimed right at us. And I'm going to say, guys, this is scary enough. just in case. Be prepared to come back and live a little bit longer in the real world if it's not the case, but that would be bad enough, I would say, yeah. What you got into becoming suspicious observer? What got me into becoming suspicious observer, my aha moment. I got lucky and I wanted to study, I wanted to report on the sun, weather, and earthquakes. And I very quickly realized nobody else had ever looked at those three things together because the correlations would have been blatantly obvious to everyone. And I concurrently was learning about Earth's magnetic field. And then someday back in 2012 or so, all the pieces just fell together. And the science has done nothing but add more pieces on top. Kind of like a reverse game of Jenga, so to speak, filling in the holes everywhere. I can't say I had one aha moment at all, but we're here now. You need information on Taiwan if that's possible. That's a terrifying place to be in this. Absolutely terrifying place to be in this. The waves are going to be titanic. It'll probably hit from both sides at some point. Not to mention that, like, China might just like come do whatever to you at any given point. Volcanoes in the area are going to be an issue. One thing I can say is if you do manage to survive there, probably going to be a lot of people around who know how to live simply, know how to live in that world. Other than that, if you can get through the worst of it, probably be okay. Mindy, now that thing is cute. Thank you, Mindy. I like that. That made me smile. David Dewey, thank you. I'm going to get caught up here. Redneck Sailor, thank you very much. All right, now we're going to get caught up. Hello again, Way Nerd. Steam power is definitely the way to go. Power, heat, distilled water with do-it-yourself plans at Green Steam Engine. Is that like greensteamengine.com? Or, I don't know. Just use a search engine. Look up Green Steam Engine. Thank you very much for that tip. Much appreciated. If I win the lottery, will you and your team of SOs build the wooden ark for us? Yup. How about Telluride, Colorado? My wife wants to know. We currently live in Northwest Oregon, about 45 minutes from the coast. Well, put it this way. Telluride is better than living in Oregon. But Telluride is high up enough that when we lose power, even before the flip, just how do you survive that cold? When it gets really cold here, I sometimes look at Telluride's weather to make myself feel better. Let me put it that way. When we get a big snowstorm here, I look at how much snow is accumulated in Telluride to make myself feel better. Trudy Silvers, thank you. Rose D, thank you very much. Scrolling. I need to rebuild my off-grid property. Oh, hello again, Susie. Up in the mountains outside of Las Vegas at the 6,000-foot level, what would be the best type of building to do? Hempcrete, aircrete, or wood? Or earth, hobbit home, earthen homes, something like that. And, you know, I realize that's a simple answer, but sometimes a simple answer in a question like that is even better. Hey, Ben, what's the likely time lag between the initial indication of the NOVA event and the L-show arc discharge over the Western Pacific? About 12, 14 hours. Unless you mean the initial indication of the NOVA event coming, like the sun turns red, then it's 3 days or so plus 12 to 14 hours. But once the shell blasts off, it's going to get here pretty quickly. Which again means that the flash will be happening over Europe and Africa. Glad we crossed paths on the internet. Same to you, Rick Owen. Keep up the good work. Happy trails. Double thank you. Appreciate the good words there and the support. Oh, my, almost caught up. This is banging. Bomberry. All right, that's a new one. I like that. Smile. I know this is in the playlist, smiley face, but what should we do when we get an X20 flare? Get underground? How long will we have? No, that's not when you get underground. That's when you have to realize the Earth may lose power and go back to the Stone Age. Get away from your power outlets. If we get an X20 flare, get to this. If you've got a store that's within just a couple minutes of you, get there and get as much stuff as you can right away and get home. You got kids in school, call up some excuse. Be like, grandma died. Got to get them out. Make up something. Get your family to you and get as many supplies as you can. But no, you don't need to get underground for just the solar flare. Appreciate all your research, Ben. Does the weakening magnetic shield cause thundering to be louder and deeper? Yes, but indirectly. It's causing more powerful and basically more powerful lightning in all ways. More electric current, thicker bolts, longer bolts, and that, of course, heats the atmosphere more. And at the end of the day, this is a part of atmospheric physics that is true. The thunder is a result of the lightning heating and creating those waves and the particles banging against one another like that. So the answer to your question is yes, but kind of indirectly. But thank you, Allison. Good question. We're caught up now. I like this. Samaya Sanjay says, hi, Ben. How will Bangalore fare during the sloshback, which is around 3,000 feet in elevation, 125 miles from the seacoast from all three sides? It's possible you could make it there. I also don't know for a fact whether or not the inertia of it coming is going to have it run up. So, like, don't forget, if this is the beach and you get a wave that comes like this, it can go up to here. The inertia takes the run up of the wave much higher than the wave itself. Other than that, I would say, because I don't know exactly where in Bangalore you are, I would say that things that are important are, what is the geology between you and the water, and then what is the geology to the sides of you as you look at the water. If you're up at a high point here and you've got low valleys on either side of you, you have a much better chance than if it's just flat, flat, flat all the way up to you, because that's when the inertia actually, your elevation won't matter as much because the inertia will just take over. That's the number one best thing I could say for you and for anybody else who has a similar question about their situation. Look where you are. What's between you and the water, and what's on the sides of you as you look at the water. It can tell you a lot about where the water will go and how it will hit your area. Very good question. And I'm behind again. Sonny says, nukes being launched because of a perceived attack, ? Probably not. I think they all know exactly what's happening. They'll be knowing exactly what's going on. And in terms of like a surprise one country versus another, I don't think that unless it's like India versus Pakistan, that you can nuke somebody these days. Unless you somehow sneak it in some way. I trust satellite lasers. I trust hacking. I trust other scalar wave technology more than I trust missiles coming across an ocean. Put it that way. Have I seen Randall Carlson's Halloween connection to the Younger Dryas? No. And why do I think he's still so oblivious to the plasma universe model? That's the thing. He wasn't. Like when we did the interview with him and in some of the months that followed, like he was on it with the sun and he was on it with so much of this stuff. I don't know. Hung out with Graham Hancock too much, I guess. A sad but relevant question. Thank you, Freedom Cycle. Thank you, Mark Miller. Bender Bending Rodriguez. Should we disassemble things like guns, water pumps, bikes, and store in thick rubber sheets for later assembly? Possibly. I can't say for 100% certain you have to, but if you're at the point where you've taken care of everything all the way up to that, yeah, go right ahead. Thanks for all the hard work educating us. No, thank you for the support. And like I said, if you don't have your stores of food, your stores of water, your stores of seeds, if you don't have your guns yet, no, the next thing I would do is not disassemble those things. But, if you're on it, do everything you can. Everything you can. And I got to go back here. Oh, my. Is the increase of emotional intensity, I would say emotional instability, only applicable to those that rooted in anxiety, or can it make joy and enthusiasm more intense as well? I don't see why it couldn't make joy and enthusiasm more intense as well. These are the same kind of electrical processes and electrical signals in our brain. It's just that if that's what you're afflicted by, what are you complaining about? It's very possible. And as the situation progresses, the world will get to a point where truly the only rational reaction is, "Oof, I feel anxious. This is not good. This is scary." Like if the sun turns red and you're like, "I have joy and enthusiasm at this," might have some other problems. Like if you're not anxious when the sun turns red, or if airplanes start falling out of the sky. But no, good question. How likely will the path of the Platte River past the Denver area be somewhat the same after the global quake? I have no idea. That's a really location specific question I would have to study in some detail. And I'm not going to do that in the middle of a live stream. But if you're asking because you're in the Denver area, you're asking the wrong question. Get out of Denver. Denver is not only a big city, but Denver is a den of evil. It is the modern day Sodom. I have been to almost every big city in this country as an adult, and I can say the amount of dark magic, evil, and other terrible, terrible human behaviors that I've seen in Denver, it outweighs LA, New York, San Francisco, Chicago, even the South Side. Denver is one of my least favorite places in the entire world. It is a den of evil. It is the modern day Sodom and Gomorrah put together. Does that answer your question? Sigmund Fred, nice name. Does being on granite country increase risk due to arc upstrikes? Oh, you're remembering Billy's plasma lab there, aren't you? That's another one I'm going to say. I'm not going to say, yes, you are definitely more at risk there, but it's kind of like yeah, that's a risk that some people in other places don't have. Then again, nobody is without risk in this. Man, what a good question. I'm sorry that my lack of a definitive answer is the best I can give you here, but also, that doesn't necessarily mean because you have that risk and some other places don't that you should just up and move. It's a calculated risk, and it depends on a number of things. Your head is definitely in the right place, and I think that your head is screwed on straight as well. So take that in addition to my uncertainty in the answer. Folks need to get the app. I love it. Yeah, the app's not bad. I can say that the app isn't mine anymore and I don't control it. To be able to spend time on Observer Ranch, I stopped doing the website memberships and I stopped taking, the control over the app. That is now 9rese.com, 9rese.com. They're also coming out with a more advanced space weather app here soon. So when that is all debugged and everything, I'll announce some more stuff about that. How will the EMP affect our ammo? As I've said before, this is another one you can't be certain in any way, shape, or form, but it is not out of the realm of possibility that Box of Bullets is going to start doing the popcorn thing if there's a major induction event. A major induction event. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that is definitely what's going to happen. But put it this way, you've all seen bullet boxes that are plastic. Just get one of those and you will infinitely reduce your chances of something like that happening. How well positioned is Russia, big as she is? Southern Siberia, for instance. So grateful. All right, so Southern Siberia, Southern Siberia is still a big area. There will be a lot of ice movement in that direction. The sloshback of the Arctic will be coming that way. In general, it's not the worst place to be, especially if you can currently live there and handle the winters and think you can do so without power. There's a lot worse places to be than that. But make sure you look again at the geology in front of you, your own elevation, because the Arctic is going to have a sloshback and an initial inertial wave. And actually, now I'm thinking about it, in Siberia, that would be the initial inertial wave, not the sloshback. My apologies for a moment ago. But still, things to look at, but at least it's not Florida. What's with the pendant? All right, does anybody have the... All right, I'm going to put this in the chat once. But if people can... Gotta find it. Where are you? There you are. All right, I am about to put this link in the chat. My pendant. Go read all about it. It's I felt it the moment I put it on for the first time. Put it that way. Put it that way. You guys see my link there? Hopefully you can. For those who can't, I will read it out loud once. EOS.York Press, and that's YORCK Press.com/store. So you can go right there. Lots of good information on the guy's website too, by the way. Tells you all about what these pendants are, how they work, things like that. Hello from the Jersey Shore. Thanks for all you're doing. You're very welcome. Norse ancestors did in Greenland, Iceland, dirt-covered wooden stone buildings. I mean, if you can pull that off, absolutely. FYI, I found fossilized seashells in Blue Diamond 5K elevation at the southern end of the Spring Mountain Range. I believe you. I believe you. Susie, you really seem to know what you're doing. Just stay at it. Ninja Bat, that's a nice name. How did I happen to see my question about... Did I happen to see your question about gold or something to help diffusion or deflect the micronova? So here's the thing. If you have the money to put gold everywhere, to make yourself a gold hat, do it. There's a reason why gold is so important. Gold is the ultimate reflector of electromagnetic energy. It's not going to help so much with induced current. It's not going to hurt really. But yeah. Just most of us can't afford to do that. I'll watch the playlist with my wife, but how about Eastern Oklahoma? No. Will the planetary alignment in fall of 2024 increase the likelihood of a bad one? No, and it's not that out of the ordinary. Like I realize a lot of you guys have been watching these videos. That alignment is happening once a year already and has been for a couple years and will happen a couple years after. It happened not that long before either, about 60 years ago. There was another round of those, and about 60 years before that. Nothing tremendously special about that. Just tuning in, wondering if there are aspects to your work, i.e. space weather, that can be used to debunk flat Earth. No, but flat Earth, you don't need it to debunk flat Earth. There's a number of great ways to do that. I don't think I could go into that here on a live stream, but everything from even the ancients. If you know how to look at the sky and watch the sun, the earth, the moon, the planets, the stars, it really gives you a good indication. If you look at some of the photos they use to claim things, like there's that photo where like they claim they can see the city of Chicago from 200 or some miles away, really far away. The problem is over on the side, you can see the street name and it's like 3 miles from downtown. Sometimes it's just a straight lie. The people who talk about, oh, we can't see this curvature on this. Well, are you looking on the ocean, on a calm ocean? Because if not, it's completely nonsense. The ground goes like this. From the Appalachians to the Rockies is a bowl. No, you're not going to see this unless you're literally on a calm ocean. There's a lot of ways to do it. Again, I can't go into all of them here, but no, the Earth is not flat. Going off the granite question in Billy's plasma video, did y'all ever test the current through agate? No, we did not, but we probably should have. We weren't really testing arc discharging in this way when Billy's lab was up and running like that. If only. How do I think the southern Black Hills of South Dakota will fare? Do you expect the elevation of the southern Black Hills to rise or fall as a result of the pole shift and micronova events? Again, impossible to know which areas are really going to rise or fall. Depending on the land around you, and I don't have that U.S. elevation map in my head, but remember the center of the country is going to drop in all likelihood. and I do expect the water to make it up into Canada. Again, in South Dakota, your biggest thing is, what if you've got 5, 10, 20 years with no power and those winters? That's your biggest challenge, especially in South Dakota. All right, scroll slowly. Scroll slowly. Fail. I failed. Thank you, Donna. Looking at a globe, North America dead center, will the crust shift left, right, forward, or backward? What is forward or backward? If you're looking at North America, take Greenland and pull it southward to the equator. Sorry, I'm going to be trying to answer quickly so I can catch up. Will I be a tyrant like the masked guy in The Road Warrior when shit hits the fan? No. Move to Michoacan, Mexico, elevation 5,000 feet. What do you think? I mean, I don't know where the cartels are in Mexico, but it's a general rule that there's only certain places you should go in Mexico, unless you know the people, unless you really know your stuff. I would not feel comfortable giving any kind of definitive advice about moving to Mexico. Not saying it's impossible either. The Menominee Iron Range up through Copper County. Will the minerals superheat and boil the lakes? I don't know where that is. Again, I'm not going to look at specific places here during the middle of a live stream. Iron and copper are the two of the most conductive things. Yeah, they might superheat. I don't know about boiling lakes, but I'd be more concerned with how's your weather going to be without power, and are you in the risk of tsunami? And if you're right next to the lake, don't be right next to the lake, because the lakes will slosh and things like that. Alpha to Omega again. This year, building teardrop fiberglass reinforced concrete fabric wood frame shelter. That's a heck of a sentence. Talked at Bases Project Conference December 2022 regarding the subject in the UK. Your space military background, ET aware. To all of that. Teardrop fiberglass reinforced concrete fabric wood frame shelter. That is a heck of a sentence, Julie. Holy moly. Somebody's getting all their messages deleted. Well, you think you're just going to come on here and act a fool and my moderators aren't going to do anything? Clown. Scrolling. Do I believe stockpiling coal is good? Will I do so at the ranch? No. Let's just say at the ranch we have other sources that we can use, and it's not exactly easy to get. And they're a lot easier to get than coal. But if that's what's around you and that's what you can get, yeah, maybe do it. Don't have anything that could set it on fire. That wouldn't be fun. Will I accept me at the ranch after the event if I have an original newspaper where Pierre Robitaille announced his plasma sun and anti-Big Bang hypothesis signed by him? The laughing emoji. Nah, I've already got a copy of it. He sent me one too, but that's very funny. If you show up with a white flag and you're towing behind you enough food, water, seeds, and other things, maybe. Depends how hungry we are. I have gold inlay in one of the crowns in my mouth. Can I leave it in there? I was going to get it removed. I removed my silver fillings just Tuesday. It's really a medical question. It's possible it won't matter at all. I know this. It's inside your body field. If it's just a little gold inlay, here's an idea. Heal your traumas. Start meditating. Eat a good diet and exercise. Build your field so it's as strong as possible. That's a better idea. And that was a serious scroll. Holy moly. If I were in a debate, what would be the strongest argument against my position that the sun micronovas and the earth crust shifts 90 degrees? Dude, I look every single day for any indication that this stuff isn't going to happen. I pray for it. My kids are 7, 5, and 2. I am a smart guy. I'm in exceptional shape. I am built for this freaking world right now. I would love to live out the rest of my life with none of this happening. I can't find one single shred of evidence that we are not on a path to this. Starlight. But if you can find one, by all means, send it my way, please. I am built for this world as it is right now. This is like such a shame for all of us. I reside in South Florida. My condolences, but have another home in the Blue Ridge Mountains. What would be a signal that it's time to get there? There's a lot of... I think my kid might be ring with the internet downstairs. If you guys lock there for a minute with the internet, because my baby likes to do that. It's very unfortunate. In terms of going from South Florida to the Blue Ridge Mountains, X20 solar flare, Campy Flegry goes off, planes start falling from the sky, although at that point, are you going to be able to get there? Once it is unequivocally clear that it's time to go, travel is going to be nearly impossible. Is there a chance that Earth dodges flares long enough to sustain tech before the micronova? Yes, it's absolutely possible. It's not something you just absolutely bet on. But yes, it is absolutely possible. Will I ever get along with David M. from OPR? No. And here's why. One, I'm totally fine with us disagreeing about things. Then he started trolling this channel. Then he started trolling my Facebook. When I intellectually slapped him every single time, he starts trolling my wife on Facebook. He actively trolls my wife on Facebook. That guy. Honestly. No, me and David M. aren't making up. Never. Ever. What are my thoughts? What are my video thoughts on the Earth facing quiet? I think when that mechanism stops is go time. I would agree. I only have crazy ideas about why the Earth facing quiet exists that even I think are crazy. So it is what it is. Oppenheimer Ranch. What a clown. He's been crazy since he went to jail for selling drugs. Impression of those people that used copper pennies and resin for their floors. They could have picked something else. They probably didn't know about this. Serious question. Could if the power grid CME kill shot only took out half the world's grid, i.e. just North South America, for example, China, Russia, could rush over here to dismantle us? They could in theory, but I think they would take a look at what happened and have been like, oh, crap. It's time. It's not like Russia and China don't know what situation we're in. Survival and the survival of their own people are the number one thing they're thinking about. More so than anything else, the survival of their elites. Still, I appreciate where that question comes from, but no, probably not. I live in Cruces, trying to get out to Santa Fe. I'd rather not be in Albuquerque, but I'm thinking Santa Fe up to Pagosa Springs would be a good bet. Don't have a whole lot of complaints about that area. In fact, I like Pagosa Springs a lot. It's a very fun place. Not a bad plan. 3 days of darkness prophecy versus coming Nova event. You have said the darkness could last about 3 days. And I've said in my book and in tons of videos before, it's not just a biblical prophecy. This is in a lot of different places. Yeah, I think those two things are related. That's why I sit on the number 3 for 3 days. Scrolling. I live south Denver among the foothills of the Platte River, saying it's You're saying it's possible to know if it survives, or should I not count on it at all? Like I said, I've never studied the Platte River, and I'm not going to, can't that detailed of an analysis here in the middle of a live stream event. I'm saying that if you're anywhere near Denver, you've got much, much bigger problems than the Platte River. Much bigger problems than the Platte River. And I wouldn't count on anything at all. It's possible the Platte River could go dry. It's possible it could increase its flow. I don't know. But none of that matters if you're close to Denver. I don't know what happened. Billy misses experiments and gruff voice. What happened to him? I sure missed some update from you. When we stopped doing the website, it appeared he decided to focus on some other things in his life. I called him one day. He wasn't exactly in the mood to chat. Told him I would be here if he ever wanted to talk anytime for any reason. That was back in September. I've received 0 phone calls. How do we get mammoths that have remained frozen for 40,000 years and turn over every 1,000 years? Can carbon dating be that enough off to account for this? Yes. Yes. Never forget, they found a recently dead seal, like as in like not decomposed, like it died earlier that morning, and they carbon dated it to 600 years old. Forget, they thought that the ice in the Tibetan ice caps was more than 500,000 years old. Then they krypton dating and found, wait a minute, it might have a maximum age of 17,000 years and is probably from the Younger Dryas. Yes, it could be that off. And also, don't forget, this Holocene is the only interglacial in the last 10 of these cycles. And we still have glaciers in the tropics. When this cycle happened during the glacial cycle, just before 12,000 years ago, any of the last 5, 6, 7, 9 of them, there were probably tons of ice left over at the equator, even after 12,000 years. Think about that one too. Assuming a buildup of smaller events that affect more local areas, what are my thoughts on things like mass population migration, slow social degradation? Perhaps not so slow. And yes, it's going to happen. Absolutely. This is going to look absolutely insane when things start to go wrong. Absolutely insane. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate you. Ben, one thing I didn't get to ask you, what are some signs to look for in the sun if it's going to super flare? Massive sunspot group? Solar flares, CMEs, things like that are a lot harder to predict than how do you guys realize. With the exception of, are we going to have an uptick every 11 years during the sunspot cycle? Are we going to have an uptick on the 5.9 month cycle or on the 3-month half cycle of it? But in terms of super flare versus something less, it's nearly impossible to guess. Knowing Florida is a problem, is a possible option to float away with inrush? Yes, but again, you've got sand, you've got trees, you've got rocks, and you don't know where you're going to end up, and you're not going to have any of your preps with you. You don't know who's going to be around you, where you're going to land, things like that. Yes, it's possible to float away. Is that the best option? If you can't get out of Florida, yeah, maybe that is your best option. Robert, I appreciate you. Cultivated Chaos says, I live north of Yellowstone National Park. You've said it's broken, but do you think there's going to be any volcanic activity? I will try to utilize the heat of nearby hot springs. Is that a pipe dream? I don't know if it's a pipe dream. Yellowstone is not, it's not impossible to have effusive eruptions there, but in terms of the big explosive eruptions that everyone would be scared about, no, that's not going to happen. Can't guarantee that it's going to have effusive eruptions, can't guarantee anything about it really, other than it does not have the ability to build up pressure right now. It just lets it go. So no, might not be a pipe dream. I guess you'll find out, won't you? Oh, did I catch up? Bang it. John, what concerns have you about post-cataclysm living with all military bases so near and possibilities of whisked away to a FEMA camp or provision confiscation? This is where you need to take those more extreme conspiracy theorists online and realize they don't have a clue what they're talking about and they're completely out of their damn minds. Complete nonsense. Not to mention that there's not going to be a military after this. There's not going to be any camps. Nothing like that. It's one of, I mean, yes, some of the military who survive might band together. The ones nearby here aren't exactly trained in outdoor survival of, you know, in these winters and other things like that. It's mostly airmen. In general, you don't have to worry about that. When things go this wrong, there's only so much of an evil order that any American's going to follow. How many years of stored food will be needed in light of effects of growing conditions? At least one, but as many as you can have. I'd say try to have at least 3 or maybe 5. But from past events, it looks like the world comes back in at most a year. Good question, though, Jane. My older family needed biblical references to get them to consider using John Little's books and free audio work on Ezekiel's website. He speaks highly of you, Ben. I don't know who he is, but that sounds really cool. That sounds awesome. Ezekiel's Fire website by John Little. Books and free audio works. Well, if you speak highly for me, John, there's a little shout out. Reverse Universe, thank you very much. Glad to be with you for over 10 years now, and valuable information and learning about our past to affect the future. Thank you, Ben Cat from the East Coast of Canada. Thank you, Jillian Maxwell. Much appreciated. Melissa Slack, you're very kind. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated there. And I scrolled too. Thanks, Ben. Feels like I finally found what I was meant for. No fear. Yeah. There are a lot of NPCs walking around. But if you're here at this point now, especially if you've been here for a while, something brought you here, chances are you're not one of those non-player characters. And you were built to survive. Is there any software that someone could use to simulate some of these tsunami-type events to better understand possible relocation sites? I'm sure there is, but it would require, I don't know, a supercomputer mixed with ArcGIS and a program that nobody's ever conceived of before. I'm sure it's possible. It's not going to be me who does that, though. I promise. If you're a pure blood, will that help us get in or just get eaten before the supernova, micronova? Will the sun change color gradually to red? Maybe gradually. It might happen in a day. Pure blood. For those who don't know, he means you haven't been vaccinated. I do recommend that, by the way. Not being vaccinated is what I recommend. I mean, what do I expect ranch weather to be like after it all settles down? About the same, slightly better than it is now. Definitely a little more rain. That gorgeous microclimate in the Penrose, Florence, Canyon City area will continue. Will this be like the movie Knowing? Not that bad. It will not be as bad as that. If it was that bad, the world would be over. Lenora, I could hug you right now. That's super cute. And thank you very much. Do you have any speculation about the destiny of the Arkansas River near canyons in Colorado? Probably, again, this is the Arkansas River is a weird one because of its sources. because of actually how it flows down through the valley, especially near Florence. I think that there will be periods where it is vastly higher than it is now. 100 feet higher, no, but vastly higher than it is right now, especially during the major rains, especially during the heavy snow that should come in some of the winters that are upcoming. And the only reason I know that is because, of course, Union City, right next to the ranch. So that one I don't need to stop the live stream in order to give an answer on. I'm also a bigger fan of the streams, ponds, and springs to the north of the ranch, which are up in the mountainous area. I'm a fairly green SO, but I sincerely appreciate the hard work you and company constantly put into helping us all prepare. I've seen the playlist 3 times along with all the other videos, and I ordered one of your books. Sounds like you're on the right track, Verdi. You're very welcome, man. You're very appreciated. Ben had to switch to Czech. Do you know Danny and Brinkley? He claims that shift will happen in 2025. All other info agrees with your knowledge, but the date. I don't know who that is. People claim many things. There have been people claiming 2012. There were people claiming 2011. There were people claiming 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. There's people claiming everything. What evidence are they using to come up with this date? And again, I can't speak on Brinkley because I don't know what evidence they're using. But nailing down a specific year that makes me a little suspicious. Maybe that doesn't mean anything because I'm a little suspicious by nature, but still. Interesting. I was on a warship off the coast of Sri Lanka in 2004, and even with spotters, radar, and a helicopter, we still have a house. Fair enough. Carsus the Great. That's a heck of a name, by the way. All right, wait, you were in a warship and you hit a house. Was the house like on the beach? Or did you guys not realize that you had run ashore and then you somehow kept going? I have many questions for you on that comment, Carsus. Many questions. Most of them are funny, though. I'm just looking at some of the comments, like in between the super chat. Some of you have just like given up on like rationality. And I swear to God, you're just pounding keys and hitting enter. 2004 tsunami. Oh, ha! That's funny, Carsus. Yeah. Sometimes you just don't know what you're going to see. Sometimes radar will be out. Sometimes your eyes will trick you if there's difficult conditions. Melissa Slack again. Oh, thank you so much. Truly. It was probably floating. Somebody else said the house Carsus hit. Diane Drummond. You got some kind of a problem? By the way, thank you for making my Haterade stock go up. Really glad I purchased that several years ago. Troll's making me rich. Love it. I wish. But yeah. Clown. Just to say thank you for knowledge, smarter every day. That's the goal. B. Just try to get 1% better as you go along. Don't learn to crawl and then try to fly the next day. Just try to get a little bit better every single day. A little bit better. Really appreciate all you guys, by the way. Thank you, Red. Appreciate it. Are dreams affected by flares? I just happened to catch that one as it scrolled by. Yeah, I don't know why they could be. Same with the change geomagnetic, same with geomagnetic storms, same with solar energetic particle events. Melissa Slack, send me an email, by the way. Durango, Montrose, Grand Junction face risk from sloshback? No. Or is the water availability the primary risk? The water availability is a risk. Yeah, there will be rain and flooding. Those areas aren't terrible. Your winters are worse than our winters over here in the eastern range, and I can say that for us, I mean, we're doing several things to make sure that a no electricity winter doesn't kill us here in Colorado in the interim. But that's your number one thing. That's our number one thing over here on the eastern range. And then after that, it's prepping, making sure you have a lot of supplies. If you're in one of those areas, don't count yourself out by any stretch of the imagination. Just prioritize the risks. Prioritize them. BG Cast. Right on, brother. Oh, wait a minute. Dude, it just hit me who you are. Right on. I do hope to chat with you again sometime. That was fun. Feel free to post links to your videos in there, by the way. Interview and stuff. Diana, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. How do you do a multi-layered heart like that's cute? I have to get off, but thank you again so much. Have a great night. No, you have a great night, Denise. Thank you so much. And I love that you put Patriot and American flag behind your name somehow on your username. How do I put an American flag on my username? That'd be cool. Susie, again, thanks for everything you and yours do. Hugs. Hugging you right back. Susie, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Staying in Texas for the EMP, what's your best prep? In terms of the EMP, I don't know. If you insist on staying in Texas, the most important prep I can say is get something that floats because the water's coming. No getting around it. I realize some of you guys can't get out of where you are. So give yourself the best opportunity. Some of you either can't or won't get out from where you are. Give yourself the best opportunity you can. Keith, thank you very much. Keith Kinvig, thank you very much. I appreciate you. What budget would be needed to buy land and have a reasonable house built on the ranch area? Send me an email. Can't discuss details of that here. I suppose I could. It would take a while. If you send me an email and ask for stuff about Observer Ranch, I'm going to send you all the information. I live in Las Cruces. I really want to get to Santa Fe or up to Pagosa Springs, not Albuquerque. I'm 26, no kids, and an Eagle Scout. I got time. I mean, it's not happening today. It's not happening tomorrow. I think you posted this already. Or maybe somebody else is really in your exact same position. I did answer you for Andrew. I like all those areas. My wife and I happen to love Pagosa Springs, by the way. Santa Fe is not terrible. Las Cruces isn't terrible. The outskirts of Albuquerque are not terrible. I wouldn't want to be downtown. Haywood, there was a man from Lake Louise who went outside in 2 degrees. He froze his nose and all his toes were as cold as bird's eye frozen peas. All right. It took me till the last couple of seconds to realize what you were doing there, Hayward, but 10 points to you for that. Have I ever thought about going for a trip down under? Lots of people down here. Until your government gets its act together, I'm not coming anywhere near Australia or New Zealand for that matter. Wouldn't want to do something and accidentally get vaccinated. Seems like a beautiful place, but my goodness. My goodness. Aussies. Burnt toast. Thank you so much. Big ups. Respect and greatly appreciated. Stephanie Munoz, thank you very much. Recognize your name as well. Nice to see you here. Zach says, used to have dreams of attending the Cosmic Super Bowl as a child. Me too. Found you along with the Electric Universe 2017 when my life turned inside out due to a false positive of leukemia. Wow. And down the rabbit hole I went. Wouldn't it be amazing if that's what ends up saving your life? Glad it was a false positive, by the way. Glad you're here. Appreciate it. I appreciate you too, Cody. Thank you very much. And you, Secret Surfer 101. Thank you. Much appreciated. You guys are all awesome. Really, you are. Redneck Sailor, can you give a shout out to my buddy Cole, who introduced me to your channel, please, sir? Koll. Thank you, Cole, for introducing Redneck Sailor to this channel. Awesome. And if that's not your name and he spelled it wrong, you are big ups for sharing and somehow managing to do that in a world where nobody wants to hear anything. It's not a small feat. Will calcium oxalate crystal kidney stones be a more shocking experience than normal or no? Half joking, half serious. That's an interesting question. I do not have an answer for you right off the top, but as I mentioned before, get as healthy as possible. Do everything you can. You have no more excuses. You don't have all the time in the world. I have 50 acres in western Kentucky. Will the flood through the middle take us out? Maybe. But also for Kentucky, the water's coming through the Appalachian valleys too. Yes, it might tear some of the tops of the mountains there, but it's going to break through the Appalachians. With the way the Earth tilted last time, the Pacific broke through the Rockies. So with it tilting back this time, no, I don't see the Appalachians posing any kind of threat to stopping the Atlantic. No threat whatsoever. Hey, Ben, have you had a chance to read the Slim Spilling books? Keep up the great work. I have to say, love seeing the pendant. That's Pete Benson, by the way, the guy who asked that question. He's the one who made it. That's still saved on my thing there. All right, I'm putting his website in the chat one more time, the eos.yorkpress thing that's in there from me. I have actually started leafing through some of those books. I have not gotten a chance to do my usual deep study on them just yet. But Pete, thank you. I love this thing. It's awesome, and can't wait to see you again. By the way, if you have come to one of the Observer events recently, these guys are our sponsors, and they're really, really wonderful. Along with Nasortny, which stands for not a single one of us regrets not taking it. That was an inside joke for those who remember what that is. Thomas Gear, thank you. You're much appreciated. By the way, Pete Benson, if you weren't here at the start of the show, I did give you a shout out once already and put the link to your website in there at the beginning of the show. And I just did it again. When I was in Phoenix over winter break, he was happy and nice enough to let us come visit his happy home for a little bit. He really is a cool dude. RK, thank you very much for saying so. Appreciate you very much. It's to the point where maybe we'll take a couple more super chats and then we'll call it a day. 20 acres of prairie outside Corning, California. Should I just sell and move or try to build? I have a septic and well already. It is true. Do not think much about the survival possibilities of just about anywhere in California. Is it impossible? No. And I will never tell anybody you should Like, you must get up and move. I can make recommendations, but also, if you have a job, if you have family, land, if you've got kids who have a life, if you have a life, these are all things to consider. And how you want to gauge timing, risk, loss based on decisions, that's something that has personal to everybody. My integrity and loyalty is profound. Thank you. Been an observer since 2011. Oh, yeah. Burnt Toast, I've been seeing your name for quite a while. Thanks for keeping it real. You are very welcome, guys. I am going to. How will Israel fare? Man, you snuck that in there, Marnina. In some ways, it'll be okay. In other ways, it's going to be a battlefield. But the problems for Israel are going to be more people related than nature related up until the solar micronova. You guys should be feeling some of the fire from the micronova, if I don't mind saying so myself, and that's going to be relatively challenging. But up until then, your challenges are going to be mostly from other people, including your own government, which just wants to vaccinate the bejesus out of you, unfortunately. I'm getting away with saying a lot here on this podcast that I'm still up, apparently. Douglas, thank you very much. What are my thoughts these days about Paul Laviolette, if any? Super fun idea. You know what else is a super fun idea? Nibiru. The problem with the Paul Laviolette idea is, one, his thing is not a particle wave. This is a light blast that comes from the center of the galaxy. You can't see it coming. Once it gets there, it's over. And there's not this progressive lead up of events that we are in and have been and will continue to see up until the zenith of it. Furthermore, we look out and see millions of galaxies all over the cosmos. Haven't seen a super wave in any of them yet. So those two things make me call his story a very interesting one, but not related to what's happening right now. Thomas Holland, always good to see you here. Thank you very much for your support, guys. I am going to call there. I will see you in the morning for the daily show. Be safe, everyone.